The lights flickered again on maintenance platform Gamma 7, casting long shadows across the metal corridors. Jack Miller wiped the grease from his hands with an old rag and looked at the broken ventilation unit he had been working on for the past 3 hours. The alien technology was always breaking down, and somehow it was always his job to fix it. He was the only human on this floating scrap heap they called a space station, surrounded by creatures from a dozen different worlds who all seemed to think that humans were good for nothing but manual labor. The platform orbited a dying red star that painted everything in shades of rust and blood. Most days Jack could ignore the loneliness, focusing on his work and counting the credits that would eventually buy him passage to somewhere better. Tonight was different, though. Tonight the isolation felt heavier than usual, pressing down on him like the weight of the void outside. He gathered his tools and started walking toward the waste disposal bay. It was his last job of the shift, and probably the worst one. The alien crew members dumped all sorts of things down there, and it was Jack's responsibility to sort through the mess and prepare for ejection into space. The smell alone was enough to make him sick, a mixture of rotting organic matter and chemical waste that no human nose was meant to endure. The disposal bay doors hissed open, and Jack stepped inside. The artificial gravity was weaker here, making his boots stick to the floor with each step. Mountains of garbage rose up around him like metallic hills, casting strange shadows in the dim emergency lighting. He pulled out his scanner and began sorting through the debris, separating recyclables from true waste. Something caught his eye near the far corner of the bay. It was pale white, almost glowing in the red emergency lights. Jack moved closer, his scanner beeping softly as it detected organic material. What he found made him stop breathing for a moment. It was alive. The creature was small, maybe the size of a house cat, with white scales that seemed to shimmer like pearls. It had 4 legs, tiny wings folded against its back, and a long tail that curled around its body. Its head was dragon-like, with a small snout and closed eyes. But what made Jack's stomach turn were the thousands of small, dark growths covering its body. They looked like barnacles, clustered so thickly that they almost hid the creature's natural shape. Jack knelt down beside it, careful not to make any sudden movements. The creature's breathing was shallow and rapid, and he could see that some of the barnacle-like growths were actually pulsing with a faint blue light. It was dying, that much was clear. Someone had dumped it here like garbage, expecting it to suffocate in the cold vacuum when the bay was emptied. His first instinct was to call for Dr. Cole, the station's medical officer. The spider-like alien had multiple arms and was supposedly trained in treating various species. But Jack hesitated. He knew what would happen. The alien crew would declare the creature a contamination risk and have it destroyed immediately. They had done it before with other things he had found in the waste bay. Instead, Jack carefully lifted the small drag in his arms. It was surprisingly light, and its skin felt cold through his work gloves. The creature didn't react to being moved, which worried him even more. He looked around the disposal bay, making sure he was alone, then made a decision that would change everything. Jack smuggled the creature back to his quarters, which were little more than a converted storage room in the lowest level of the station. The space was cramped and filled with spare parts and tools, but it was private. He cleared off his workbench and gently placed the dragon on a clean cloth, under the better lighting of his quarters. Jack could see just how bad the creature's condition really was. The barnacles covered almost every inch of its body, and some of them seemed to be growing into its flesh. The dragon's white scales were dull and lifeless where they weren't covered by the parasites. Its breathing was getting weaker. Jack had no idea what to feed a dragon, or even if it was actually a dragon at all. For all he knew, it might be some kind of alien pet or experimental creature. But it was clearly intelligent, even unconscious. There was something in its face that spoke of awareness and pain. He spent the next hour researching everything he could find in the station's database about dragon-like creatures. Most of the entries were classified or written in alien languages he couldn't read. What little information he could access mentioned something called star drakes, ancient creatures that had once been common throughout the galaxy but were now extinct. The files were old and incomplete, but they described beings of great intelligence and power. Jack looked back at the small, barnacle-covered creature on his workbench. If this was really a star drake, it was supposed to be extinct, That meant someone had been lying about that. Or this was something even rarer than he had thought. The creature's breathing got worse as the hours passed. Jack tried giving it water, but it couldn't swallow. He tried cleaning some of the barnacles away, but they seemed to be attached too firmly to remove without causing damage. Everything he tried seemed to make things worse. Just before dawn, when the station's lights shifted from red to yellow to simulate a day's cycle, something changed. The dragon's eyes opened for the first time. They were pale blue, almost silver, and they looked directly at Jack with an intelligence that made his breath catch. The creature tried to lift its head, but was too weak. Its mouth opened slightly, and Jack thought he heard something like a whisper, though no sound came out. The moment lasted only a few seconds before the dragon's eyes closed again, but Jack felt like something had passed between them, a connection, or maybe just recognition. That was when Commander Voss found him. The door to Jack's quarters slid open without warning, and the tall, gray-skinned alien stepped inside. Voss looked like a cross between a dolphin and a shark, with smooth skin and black eyes that reflected no emotion. He was a station commander, and Jack had learned to stay out of his way whenever possible. "Mechanic Miller," Voss said in his flat, translated voice. "You were not at your assigned station for the morning inspection." Jack tried to position himself between the commander and the workbench, but it was too late. Voss had already seen the dragon. "What is that creature?" Voss demanded, moving closer. "I found it in the waste bay," Jack said, trying to keep his voice steady. "It was dying, so I brought it here to help it." Voss examined the dragon with the same expression he might use to look at a broken piece of equipment. "This appears to be a contaminated specimen. The parasitic organisms covering it are potentially dangerous to station personnel." "It's just a baby," Jack protested. "Look at it. It can barely breathe." "That is precisely why it must be disposed of immediately," Voss replied. "Sick and dying creatures are vectors for disease and contamination. Station regulations are clear on this matter." The commander moved toward the workbench, but Jack stepped in front of him. "You can't just kill it. It's alive and intelligent." Voss's black eyes fixed on Jack with something like surprise. "You are risking the safety of this entire station for a dying animal. This is not rational behavior, even for a human." "Maybe not," Jack said, "but it's the right thing to do." For a long moment, the two of them stared at each other. Jack could feel his heart pounding, knowing that Voss could have him thrown off the station or worse. But he couldn't step aside and let the creature die. Not when those silver eyes had looked at him with such trust. Finally, Voss spoke again. "You have 1 hour to dispose of this creature properly. If it is not gone by then, I will have security handle the matter. And Mechanic Miller, you will report to Dr. Cole for a psychological evaluation. Your behavior suggests possible contamination or mental instability." The commander left without another word, and Jack was alone with the dying dragon again. 1 hour. He looked down at the small creature, still struggling to breathe under its burden of barnacles. In 1 hour it would be dead, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. But Jack Miller had never been good at accepting things he couldn't change. He was a mechanic, someone who fixed broken things for a living. And looking at the dragon, he realized that maybe, just maybe, this was something he could fix too. He had 1 hour to figure out how to save a creature that might be the last of its kind. The barnacles pulsed with their blue light, and Jack had the strange feeling that they were the key to everything. He just had to figure out what they really were, and why someone had covered this beautiful creature with them in the first place. The clock on his workbench showed 58 minutes remaining. Jack rolled up his sleeves and got to work. Jack stared at the dragon on his workbench, his mind racing through possibilities. 56 minutes left before Commander Voss would send security to dispose of the creature. He had to think like a mechanic, not like someone trying to perform alien surgery. What did he know about parasites and how they attach to their hosts? He pulled out his electronic toolkit and selected the smallest precision tools he had. The barnacles weren't just stuck to the dragon's skin. They seemed to have tiny root-like structures that went deeper. But as Jack examined them more closely under his magnifying lens, he noticed something strange. The blue light that pulsed through them followed a pattern, almost like a heartbeat or breathing rhythm. The dragon's eyes opened again, just for a moment, and Jack felt that same strange connection he had experienced before. This time he was sure he heard something, not with his ears, but somehow directly in his mind. It was weak and unclear, like a radio signal from very far away, but it felt like the creature was trying to communicate with him. Jack decided to try removing just one barnacle to see what would happen. He selected the smallest one he could find, near the dragon's front leg, and used his finest cutting tool to carefully separate it from the pale skin beneath. The barnacle came away easily, much easier than he had expected, and immediately the dragon's breathing seemed to improve just slightly. The removed barnacle continued to glow with blue light, even after it was separated from the dragon. Jack held it up to examine it more closely, and realized it wasn't really a parasite at all. It looked more like some kind of biological battery or energy storage device. The glow was definitely some form of contained energy, and now that it was removed, that energy wasn't being drained from the dragon anymore. Encouraged by this discovery, Jack began working more quickly but still carefully. Each barnacle he removed made the dragon's condition improve a little more. After he had cleared about a dozen of them, the creature was able to lift its head and look at him directly. Its silver eyes were clearer now, and Jack was certain he could sense gratitude coming from the small being. The door chimed, and Jack's heart stopped. But instead of Commander Voss or security officers, Dr. Cole entered the room. The spider-like alien moved on 6 legs, with 2 additional arms that ended in delicate manipulator appendages. Her compound eyes reflected the light as she looked around the cramped quarters. "Mechanic Miller," Dr. Cole said in her clicking, translated voice, "I understand you have discovered something in the waste disposal that you should not have kept." Jack positioned himself protectively in front of the workbench again. "Dr. Cole, please don't take it away. I think I'm figuring out how to help it." The alien doctor moved closer, and Jack reluctantly stepped aside so she could examine the dragon. Dr. Cole's eyes widened when she saw the partially clear creature and the pile of removed barnacles still glowing on the bench. "This is impossible," she whispered. "These are Void Hunter biorestraints. They're designed to be impossible to remove without killing the host. Void Hunters." Jack asked, "Who are they?" Dr. Cole looked around nervously, as if checking to make sure they weren't being overheard. "They are slavers and experimenters. They capture other species and modify them for various purposes. These biorestraints are used to suppress natural abilities and drain life energy to keep subjects weak and compliant." Jack felt anger building in his chest. Someone did this to him on purpose. They tortured him and then threw him away like garbage. "The Void Hunters are known for their cruelty," Dr. Cole said, "but I have never seen anyone successfully remove their biorestraints before. How did you manage it?" "I just started taking them off," Jack said, confused. "They came away pretty easily once I figured out how they were attached." Dr. Cole picked up one of the removed barnacles with a delicate manipulator arm. "These should have toxic discharge systems that activate when tampered with. They should have killed both you and the creature the moment you tried to remove them." Jack looked at his hands, expecting to see burns or injuries, but his skin looked normal. Maybe they malfunctioned? Or maybe, Dr. Cole said thoughtfully, there is something about human physiology that interferes with their toxic systems. Your species is still relatively unknown to most of the galaxy. The dragon made a soft sound, almost like a purr, and both Jack and Dr. Cole looked down at it. The creature was definitely stronger now, able to hold its head up and move its legs slightly. More importantly, Jack could sense something from it that felt like communication, though he still couldn't understand what it was trying to say. "We need to continue removing the biorestraints," Dr. Cole said, "but carefully. If my theory is correct, this creature may be far more significant than either of us realized." "What do you mean?" Jack asked. Dr. Cole hesitated, then spoke in a lower voice. "There are legends about creatures called star drakes. They were said to be guardians of the galaxy, beings of immense power and wisdom. Most species believe they are extinct, but if this is really one of them..." She trailed off as the dragon's eyes focused on her with obvious intelligence. The creature made another soft sound, and this time Jack was sure he felt something like recognition from it. "He understands us," Jack said. "He knows what we're talking about." Dr. Cole nodded slowly. Star drakes were telepathic. If the legends are true, He may be trying to communicate with you directly. Jack knelt down so he was at eye level with the dragon. "Can you hear me?" he asked, both out loud and in his thoughts. The response was immediate and clear. Not words, but feelings and images. Jack saw flashes of stars and space, of creatures like this one flying freely through the void. He felt a deep sadness and loss, and underneath it all, a growing sense of hope. "His name is Silver," Jack said, somehow knowing this was true. "He's trying to tell me about his people." Dr. Cole's compound eyes widened even further. "If he can communicate with you telepathically, then the biorestraints must have been suppressing that ability along with everything else. We need to remove all of them, but we must be careful. Commander Voss will not permit this to continue if he learns what we are doing." As if summoned by her words, the door chimed again. This time it was Commander Voss, and he had 2 security officers with him. The gray-skinned alien looked at the scene on the workbench with obvious displeasure. "I instructed you to dispose of this creature, Mechanic Miller. Instead, you appear to have involved our medical officer in your insubordination." Dr. Cole stepped forward. "Commander, I believe this creature may be of significant scientific value. The biorestraints covering it are of Void Hunter origin, which means it is contaminated and dangerous," Voss interrupted. "All Void Hunter experiments are to be destroyed immediately upon discovery. This is Galactic protocol." Jack felt Silver's fear through their mental connection, and his own anger flared in response. "He's not dangerous. He's just scared and hurt. Look at him." Commander Voss glanced at the dragon with cold indifference. "It is irrelevant what the creature feels. Void Hunter bioweapons are not permitted on any galactic station or vessel. Security, prepare to remove both the creature and these biorestraints for immediate disposal." The security officers moved forward, but Jack stepped between them and the workbench. "No, I won't let you kill him." "You do not have a choice in this matter," Voss said. "Stand aside or be removed along with the contamination." Jack looked at Dr. Cole, hoping for support, but the alien doctor looked frightened. He understood why. Going against Galactic protocol could mean imprisonment or worse for her. But as he felt Silver's terror through their mental link, Jack knew he couldn't give up. "Then you'll have to remove me, too," Jack said, crossing his arms. "Because I'm not moving." Commander Voss's expression didn't change, but Jack thought he saw something like surprise in the alien's black eyes. "Very well. Security. Remove both the human and the contaminated specimen. Have them both prepared for disposal." The security officers were large, insectoid creatures with multiple arms and natural armor plating. Jack knew he couldn't fight them physically, but as they reached for Silver, something unexpected happened. The dragon suddenly lifted his head and made a sound unlike anything Jack had heard before. It was musical and haunting, like a song made of starlight. At the same time, the remaining biorestraints on Silver's body began to pulse with brighter blue light, and Jack felt a surge of energy that made his hair stand on end. The security officers stopped moving, looking confused. Commander Voss stepped back, his usual calm demeanor cracking for the first time since Jack had known him. "Impossible," Voss whispered. "The biorestraints should prevent any manifestation of natural abilities." Silver's song continued, and Jack felt strength and determination flowing into him through their mental connection. The dragon was weak, barely alive, but he was using what little power he had to protect the human who had shown him kindness. Dr. Cole spoke up suddenly. "Commander, I request permission to study this creature further. The implications of what we are seeing could be significant for our understanding of Void Hunter biotechnology." Voss looked uncertain for the first time since Jack had known him. The alien commander stared at Silver, who continued to sing his ethereal song while the biorestraints pulsed with increasing energy. "One day," Voss said finally, "you have one day to complete your study. Then both the creature and all biorestraints will be disposed of according to protocol." As the security officers and Commander Voss left, Jack felt a mixture of relief and worry. They had bought time, but not much, and he had the feeling that whatever was happening with Silver was just the beginning of something much larger and more dangerous than any of them realized. The next morning Jack woke to find Silver sitting upright on the workbench, looking much stronger than before. During the night, Jack had managed to remove nearly half of the biorestraints, and the difference was remarkable. The dragon's white scales now had a lustrous shine, and his silver eyes were bright and alert. More importantly, the telepathic connection between them had grown much clearer. Jack could now sense Silver's thoughts as a gentle presence in his mind, sharing emotions and simple concepts. The dragon was trying to tell him something important, sending images of space and stars, but also something darker. Jack saw flashes of huge black ships and creatures in strange armor, beings that radiated cruelty and cold intelligence. "The Void Hunters," Jack said aloud, and Silver's mental touch confirmed his guess. Dr. Cole arrived early, her 6 legs clicking against the metal floor as she entered Jack's quarters. She carried a medical scanner and several devices Jack didn't recognize. Her compound eyes immediately focused on Silver, and she made a soft clicking sound that might have been amazement. "The improvement is extraordinary," she said, moving closer to examine the dragon. "In just one night, you have removed enough biorestraints to allow significant recovery." Silver turned his head toward Dr. Cole and made a soft musical sound. Through their mental link, Jack sensed that the dragon was trying to communicate with the alien doctor as well, but the connection wasn't as strong as it was with Jack. "He likes you," Jack told Dr. Cole. "He knows you're trying to help." Dr. Cole extended one of her delicate manipulator arms towards Silver, who sniffed it carefully before allowing her to touch his head. Remarkable. Star drakes were said to be excellent judges of character. They could sense the true nature of other beings. What else do the legends say about them? Jack asked while continuing to carefully remove more biorestraints. "They were the peacekeepers of the galaxy," Dr. Cole explained, running her scanner over Silver's body. "Beings of great wisdom and power who maintain balance between different species. They could travel through space without ships, communicate across vast distances, and their presence had calmed the most aggressive creatures." Jack felt Silver's sadness through their mental connection, along with images of others like him. "He's showing me his people. They're not extinct, are they? They're just imprisoned like he was." Dr. Cole's scanner beeped, and she looked at the readings with obvious concern. According to this, the biorestraints aren't just suppressing his abilities. They're also broadcasting a signal. What kind of signal? Jack asked, though he already feared the answer. "A tracking signal," Dr. Cole said grimly. "The Void Hunters know exactly where he is." As if her words had summoned them, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The emergency lights switched on, bathing everything in red, and Commander Voss's voice echoed to the communication system. "All personnel to battle stations. We have incoming vessels of unknown configuration. This is not a drill." Jack and Dr. Cole looked at each other with growing dread. Through the small porthole in his quarters, Jack could see dark shapes moving against the stars. The ships were enormous, black as the void between galaxies, and they moved with predatory grace toward the station. Silver's song filled the room again, but this time it was different. Instead of the beautiful, haunting melody from before, this was urgent and warning. Through their mental connection, Jack felt the dragon's terror and desperation. "They've come for him," Jack said. "The Void Hunters are here." Dr. Cole's scanner was beeping frantically now. "The signal is getting stronger as you remove more biorestraints. They must be using it to home in on his location. Then we stop removing them," Jack said, though the words hurt to say. He could feel Silver's disappointment through their link. "No," Dr. Cole said firmly. "If we stop now, he'll never be strong enough to defend himself. And neither will we." Silver sent Jack a series of images that made his blood run cold. He saw the insides of Void Hunter ships, filled with cages containing creatures from dozens of different species. He saw experimentation chambers where beings were tortured and modified. And he saw other star drakes, once magnificent creatures, now reduced to shadows of themselves, covered in so many biorestraints that they could barely move. "He's showing me their ship," Jack said, his voice tight with anger. "They have others like him. They have prisoners from all over the galaxy." The station shuddered as something large docked with the outer hull. Commander Voss's voice came over the communications again, but this time he sounded different, defeated, All personnel will remain in their quarters. We are being boarded by representatives of the Void Hunter Collective. Any resistance will result in immediate termination. Jack felt his hands shaking as he continued working on the biorestraints. Each one he removed made Silver stronger, but also made the tracking signal more powerful. It was a race against time, and he wasn't sure they could win. How many more? He asked, examining Silver's body. Perhaps 50, Dr. Cole said, but the ones remaining are the most deeply embedded. They will be harder to remove. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside, accompanied by mechanical sounds that didn't belong to any species Jack knew. The Void Hunters were searching the station, and it wouldn't be long before they reached his quarters. Silver suddenly stood up on the workbench, his small wings spreading despite the biorestraints still covering them. He looked directly at Jack and sent a clear message through their mental link. The dragon was ready to fight, even though he was still weak and partially restrained. He wanted to protect us, Jack told Dr. Cole, but he's not strong enough yet. Then we must make him strong enough, the alien doctor replied. She produced a device that looked like a combination of medical scanner and cutting tool. This will allow us to remove multiple biorestraints simultaneously, but it is dangerous. If we make a mistake, we could kill him. The footsteps in the corridor were getting closer. Jack could hear doors being forced open and the sounds of other station personnel being dragged away. They had minutes at most before the Void Hunters reached them. Do it, Jack said. It's his only chance. Dr. Cole activated her device, and immediately the remaining biorestraints began to glow brighter. Silver threw back his head and sang, his voice rising in pitch and power as the artificial parasites were stripped away. The energy stored in the biorestraints discharged in cascades of blue light, and Jack felt raw power flowing through his mental connection with the dragon. The door to Jack's quarters exploded inward, and 3 Void Hunters entered the room. They were tall and insectoid, covered in black biomechanical armor that seemed to be fused with their natural exoskeletons. Their faces were hidden behind elaborate masks, but Jack could see multiple glowing eyes studying the scene with cold intelligence. Surrender the specimen, one of them said in a voice like grinding metal. Interference with Void Hunter property is punishable by immediate termination. Silver stepped forward on the workbench, now free of most of the biorestraints. His white scales gleamed like polished silver, and his eyes blazed with inner fire. When he opened his mouth, the song that came out was nothing like the weak melodies from before. This was a sound of pure power, a harmony that seemed to resonate through the very structure at station. The Void Hunters stepped back, their weapons wavering. Jack realized that they had never seen a Star Drake at even partial strength before. All their prisoners had been kept weakened and suppressed, unable to access their true abilities. Through his mental link with Silver, Jack felt the dragon reaching out with his mind, searching for something. Then he found it. Other Star Drakes, scattered throughout the Void Hunter ship, all of them calling out in response to Silver's song. He's contacting the others, Jack breathed, the prisoners on their ship. The lead Void Hunter raised a weapon that crackled with dark energy. Impossible. The biorestraints prevent all telepathic communication. Not anymore, Jack said, stepping protectively in front of Silver. You made a mistake when you threw him away. You gave him a chance to be free. Silver's song grew louder, and Jack felt something incredible happening through their mental connection. The dragon wasn't just contacting the other Star Drakes. He was sharing his freedom with them. The knowledge of how the biorestraints could be removed, the feeling of liberation, the strength that came with being unbound. The station began to shake, not from weapons fire, but from something much more powerful. Through the porthole, Jack could see lights beginning to glow inside the massive Void Hunter ship. The other Star Drakes were awakening, and their combined power was breaking free from centuries of suppression. What have you done? The lead Void Hunter snarled, advancing on Jack with its weapon raised. But before it could fire, Silver leaped from the workbench with a grace that belied his small size. The dragon's wings, now completely free of biorestraints, spread wide and began to glow with silver light. He landed on the Void Hunter's weapon and sang a single, pure note that made the dark energy discharge harmlessly into the air. Dr. Cole was working frantically with her device, removing the last few biorestraints while the Void Hunters were distracted. Each one that came free made Silver stronger, and through their mental link, Jack could feel the dragon's power growing exponentially. "Stop them," the lead Void Hunter commanded, but his companions seemed frozen by the sight of a truly free star drake. Silver rose into the air, his wings carrying him in impossible patterns around the small room. His song filled the space with harmonies that made Jack's heart soar, and the Void Hunters stumbled backward in confusion. Through their mental connection, Jack understood what was happening. The dragon wasn't just free. He was remembering what his people had once been, what they could become again, and with that memory came power that the Void Hunters had tried for centuries to suppress. The last biorestraint fell away, and Silver blazed with silver fire as his true strength finally returned. The small dragon that Jack had found dying in the waste disposal bay was gone, replaced by a being of legend whose presence filled the room with hope and righteous fury. The real battle was about to begin. Silver floated in the center of Jack's quarters, his wings spread wide and glowing with power that made the air itself shimmer. The three Void Hunters had backed against the wall, their weapons useless against the dragon's energy field. Through their mental connection, Jack could feel Silver's emotions changing from fear and pain to something much more dangerous, righteous anger. The dragon turned his silver eyes toward the lead Void Hunter and spoke, not with his voice, but directly into the minds of everyone in the room. His mental voice was clear and strong, carrying the weight of centuries of suffering. "You have tortured my people for too long," Silver said, his thoughts blazing with fury. "You have caged us, experimented on us, and tried to make us forget what we truly are." The lead Void Hunter raised his weapon again, but Silver simply looked at it, and the dark energy weapon crumbled to dust. "Your technology means nothing to a free star drake," the dragon continued. "You made us weak because you feared our strength." Through the porthole, Jack could see the massive Void Hunter's ship beginning to break apart. Beams of silver light were cutting through its hull as the imprisoned star drakes inside fought their way to freedom. Each escape sent waves of joy and liberation through Silver's mental connection, and Jack felt tears running down his face as he experienced the dragon's first taste of freedom in generations. Dr. Cole was watching the scene with amazement, her compound eyes reflecting the silver light that filled the room. "The legends were true," she whispered. "They really were the guardians of the galaxy." Silver turned his attention to the alien doctor, and Jack felt warmth and gratitude flowing through their mental link. "You helped free me," Silver said to her. "Your people were among those who remember the old ways, before the Great Suppression began." "The Great Suppression?" Jack asked. "What does that mean?" Silver's mental voice grew sad and angry at the same time. "Long ago, the Star Drakes kept peace in the galaxy. We prevented wars, stopped slavery, and protected the weak from those who would harm them. But the powerful species did not like having their actions watched and judged." Images flowed through Jack's mind, showing him scenes from the distant past. He saw star drakes soaring between worlds, their presence bringing hope to oppressed peoples and fear to tyrants. He saw great ships fleeing from silver fire and peaceful planets where different species lived together in harmony under the dragon's protection. The Void Hunters were just one of many species that profited from suffering, Silver continued. They joined with others who wanted freedom to exploit and conquer. Together, they developed the biorestraints and began hunting my people. But why didn't anyone stop them? Dr. Cole asked. "Because most species were told we were dangerous," Silver replied, his mental voice heavy with sadness. "They were convinced that star drakes were tyrants who want to control the galaxy. The truth was hidden, and my people were hunted to near extinction." Jack felt sick as he understood the full scope of what had happened. They didn't just imprison your people. They rewrote history to make everyone think you were the villains. "Yes," Silver said, "and those who remembered the truth were silenced or forced to forget. The galaxy became a place where the strong could prey on the weak without interference." The Void Hunters in the corner were trying to communicate with their ship, but their equipment had stopped working the moment Silver regained his full power. The lead one was making harsh clicking sounds that Jack's translator couldn't interpret, though the tone suggested panic. "Your ship is falling apart," Silver told them calmly. "My people are free, and they remember everything. The centuries of pain you caused, the experiments, the torture. They are very angry." Through the porthole, Jack could see more silver lights in space as freed star drakes emerged from the wreckage of the Void Hunter vessel. They were magnificent creatures, much larger than silver, with wings that seemed to be made of starlight itself. Their songs filled the void with harmonies that made Jack's heart soar even to the barrier of vacuum and metal. How many of them were there? Jack asked. Hundreds, Silver replied. The Void Hunters collected us from across the galaxy. Each ship carried dozens of my people, all kept weak and drugged, so we could not resist. Commander Voss's voice crackled over the station's communication system, but he sounded different now. Instead of his usual cold authority, there was confusion and something that might have been fear. All personnel report to emergency stations. Multiple unknown contacts are approaching the station. Defense systems are not responding. Silver turned toward the communication speaker, and Jack felt amusement flowing through their mental link. Your commander is discovering that his weapons cannot harm star drakes, the dragon said. We have returned, and we will not be caged again. Dr. Cole moved closer to the porthole, watching as more dragons appeared in the space around the station. What will happen now? She asked. Now we reclaim our role as guardians, Silver replied. But first, we must deal with those who profited from our imprisonment. Jack felt a chill as he sensed the depth of Silver's anger through their mental connection. The dragon's fury was controlled but absolute, like the cold fire of distant stars. What are you going to do to them? Justice, Silver said simply. For too long, species like the Void Hunters have been allowed to spread suffering throughout the galaxy. They have enslaved, experimented on, and destroyed countless innocent beings. This ends now. The 3 Void Hunters in the corner suddenly collapsed, their armor crackling with silver energy. They weren't dead. Jack realized through his connection with Silver, but they were paralyzed and helpless. Their thoughts were being read, their memories examined for evidence of their crimes. So much pain, Silver said, his mental voice filled with sorrow. These 3 alone have been responsible for the suffering of thousands. They capture entire populations and sell them as slaves or experimental subjects. Jack felt sick as images flowed through their mental link. He saw the inside of Void Hunter, laboratories where beings from dozens of species were tortured in the name of science. He saw slave markets where families were torn apart and sold to the highest bidder. He saw a world stripped bare of resources, while their populations were worked to death. The galaxy has become a nightmare while my people slept in chains, Silver continued. But that changes now. Through the porthole, Jack could see that more ships were arriving. These weren't the black vessels of the Void Hunters, but sleek craft in various colors and designs. As he watched, several of them opened fire on the approaching star drakes, their weapons blazing across the void. The dragon weapons had no effect. The star drakes simply absorbed the energy and continued their approach, their songs growing louder and more complex. Jack realized they were communicating with each other, coordinating their response to this new threat. More slavers, Silver explained, sensing Jack's confusion. The Void Hunters sent out a distress call before my people destroyed their ship. Others are coming to help them, not knowing that we are finally free. Dr. Cole's scanner was beeping frantically as she monitored the space battle developing outside. There are dozens of ships out there. Some of them are massive. Are your people strong enough to fight all of them? Silver's mental voice carried absolute confidence. We are star drakes. We were born among the stars, and space itself gives us strength. These slavers and tyrants have grown comfortable preying on the weak. They have forgotten what happens when their victims can fight back. Jack watched through the porthole as the battle unfolded. It wasn't really a battle at all. The slaver ships fired their weapons uselessly, while the star drakes surrounded them like silver hawks diving on prey. One by one, the enemy vessels stopped firing as their crews were overwhelmed by the dragon's telepathic power. You're not killing them, Jack observed, feeling relieved. Death would be too easy, Silver replied. Instead, they will face justice. Every being they have wronged, every life they have destroyed, every family they have torn apart, they will experience all of it. They will feel the pain they have caused, and they will spend the rest of their lives trying to repair the damage they have done. Through their mental connection, Jack felt Silver reaching out across the galaxy. The dragon was contacting other star drakes, those who had been freed from different Void Hunter ships, those who had been hidden in secret prisons, and even a few who had somehow escaped and been living in hiding for centuries. "We are gathering," Silver explained. "For the first time in over 1,000 years, the star drakes are reuniting. We will reclaim our role as guardians and protectors. The age of unopposed tyranny is ending." Commander Voss's voice came over the communication system again, but this time he sounded defeated. "This is Commander Voss to all incoming vessels. The station surrenders. We will comply with any demands." Silver turned his attention toward the communication speaker, and Jack felt the dragon's contempt for the station commander. "Your leader has served the interests of slavers and tyrants for years," Silver said. "He knew what the Void Hunters were doing, and he helped them. He will also face justice." "What about Dr. Cole?" Jack asked. "And the other crew members who weren't involved?" "They will be judged by their actions," Silver replied. "Those who helped the oppressors will face consequences. Those who were merely following orders will be given a chance to make amends. And those like Dr. Cole, who chose to help when it mattered, will be rewarded." The alien doctor's compound eyes widened with hope and fear. "What kind of reward?" Silver's mental voice carried warmth and promise. "The chance to help rebuild the galaxy as it should be. A place where different species work together instead of preying on each other. A place where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them." Jack felt a surge of hope through their mental connection, but also uncertainty. "What about humanity? My people are new to the galaxy. We didn't know about any of this." Silver turned his silver eyes toward Jack, and the dragon's mental voice filled with gratitude and affection. "Your species may be new, but you have already proven your worth. When you found me dying and abandoned, you chose to help instead of walking away. When authority figures ordered you to let me die, you refused. When faced with superior force, you stood your ground to protect someone weaker than yourself." The dragon's mental touch grew warmer. These are the qualities that made the Star Drake's guardians in the first place. Perhaps humanity is meant to join us in that role. 6 months later, Jack stood on the observation deck of the new Guardian station, watching as ships from 100 different worlds arrived for the first Galactic Council meeting in over 1,000 years. The station was unlike anything that had existed before, built jointly by humans and Star Drakes using technology that blended mechanical engineering with dragon magic. Silver was beside him, no longer the small, dying creature Jack had found in the waste disposal bay. The dragon had grown during their time together, now large enough for Jack to ride on his back when they traveled between worlds. His white scales gleamed like polished silver, and his wings could carry them both through space faster than any ship Jack had ever seen. "Are you nervous about the meeting?" Jack asked through their mental connection, which had grown stronger over the months. "A little," Silver admitted, his mental voice carrying both excitement and worry. "It has been so long since the different species tried to work together peacefully. Many of them have forgotten how." Through the massive transparent steel windows, Jack could see the variety of ships arriving. There were sleek vessels from the dolphin-like cetaceans, crystalline constructs from the mineral-based lithoids, and organic ships that looked more grown than built from the plant species called the verdant. Most encouraging of all were the simple, sturdy craft from Earth, carrying human diplomats and engineers who were eager to help build a better galaxy. Dr. Cole approached them, her 6 legs clicking against the polished floor. She wore new insignia marking her as one of the Council's chief medical officers, responsible for establishing healthcare standards across all member worlds. Her compound eyes reflected the light from the approaching ships. "The delegates from the Arachnid Federation have arrived," she reported. "They're still suspicious about the new order, but they're willing to listen." Jack nodded. Many species were having trouble adjusting to the idea that the galaxy could be run differently. For centuries, they had known only a system where the strong dominated the weak, where slavery and exploitation were accepted as normal. The Star Drake's return had shattered that system overnight, but changing minds and hearts was taking longer. "What about the former slaver worlds?" Jack asked. Dr. Cole's expression grew more serious. "The rehabilitation programs are showing progress. The former Void Hunters and their allies are working to free the remaining slaves and repair the damage they caused. It will take generations to undo all the harm, but at least the process has begun. Silver's mental voice carried satisfaction mixed with sadness. Justice is not just about punishment. It must also include healing for those who were hurt. Jack had seen some of that healing firsthand during their travels over the past months. He and Silver had visited dozens of worlds where slaves were being freed and families reunited. They had helped establish new governments based on cooperation rather than domination. It was slow work, but every success filled Jack with hope for the future. A soft chime indicated that someone was approaching, and Jack turned to see a familiar figure walking toward them. Commander Voss looked very different from the cold, authoritarian leader Jack remembered. The gray-skinned alien moved with less arrogance now, and his black eyes held something that might have been humility. Mechanic Miller, Voss said, using Jack's old title though it no longer applied. Guardian Silver, Dr. Cole, the council chambers are ready for your arrival. Jack still felt uncomfortable around the former station commander, but he had learned to judge beings by their current actions rather than their past mistakes. Voss had been one of many who served the old system without questioning its cruelty, but he was working hard to make amends. "Thank you, Commander," Jack replied formally. "Are all the delegations present?" "Yes," Voss said, "including representatives from Earth. Your President sends her regards and hopes that the new alliance will bring prosperity to all species." Silver's wings rustled with anticipation as they walked toward the council chambers. Through their mental link, Jack could feel the dragon's excitement about meeting leaders from so many different worlds. The Star Drakes had spent centuries in isolation, and Silver was eager to rebuild the connections his people had once maintained with other species. The council chambers were enormous, designed to accommodate beings of vastly different sizes and environmental needs. Water-filled sections allowed aquatic species to participate, while gravity fields could be adjusted for creatures from heavy or light worlds. The air itself was carefully filtered to provide breathable atmosphere for everyone present. Jack took his place at the human delegation table, while Silver perched on a specially designed platform that put him at eye level with the other speakers. Around the circular chamber, hundreds of beings from across the galaxy waited to hear what the newly returned Guardians had to say. Elder Starweaver, the oldest and wisest of the freed Star Drakes, rose from her platform at the center of the chamber. Her scales were deep blue with patterns that seemed to shift like constellations, and her ancient eyes held the wisdom of millennia. When she spoke, her mental voice reached every being in the chamber simultaneously. "We gather today to begin a new age," Elder Starweaver said. "For too long, this galaxy has been ruled by fear, greed, and the belief that might makes right. The strong have preyed upon the weak, and suffering has been accepted as inevitable." Jack felt Silver's pride and determination through their mental connection as the Elder Dragon continued. "But we have seen that there is another way." When Mechanic Jack Miller found young Silver dying and abandoned, he could have walked away. Instead, he chose compassion over convenience. He chose to help rather than ignore suffering. He chose to stand against authority when that authority demanded cruelty. All eyes in the chamber turned toward Jack, and he felt his face burning with embarrassment. He had never wanted to be the center of attention. He had just done what felt right. This human showed us something we had almost forgotten. Elder Starweaver continued. That true strength comes not from the ability to dominate others, but from the willingness to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Silver's mental voice joined the elders, addressing the entire assembly. "My people were guardians once, but we failed because we tried to impose peace through power alone. We have learned that lasting peace can only come when every species chooses cooperation over conquest." A delegate from the insectoid hives raised one of her many arms. "How can we trust that this new system will be different? How do we know the Star Drakes will not become tyrants themselves?" Elder Starweaver's mental voice carried both sadness and hope. "Because we will not rule alone. We ask humanity to join us as co-guardians, to ensure that we never again lose sight of compassion and mercy." The chamber erupted in surprised chatter as delegates from various species discussed this unexpected announcement. Jack felt his own shock echoing through his mental link with Silver. "You want humans to be guardians too?" Jack asked. Silver's mental touch was warm with affection and respect. Your species has something special. You have the ability to see individuals rather than just categories. When you looked at me, you didn't see a dangerous alien creature or a valuable specimen. You saw someone who needed help. President Chen's representative, Ambassador Sarah Kim, stood up at the human delegation table. On behalf of Earth, I must ask what this guardianship would entail. Humanity is still new to galactic civilization. Elder Starweaver's ancient eyes focus on a human ambassador. Guardianship means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. It means ensuring that no species is enslaved or exploited. It means using strength to build rather than destroy. It also means making difficult choices. Silver added to the mental link that now reached the entire chamber. Sometimes guardians must stand against popular opinion to do what is right. Sometimes we must risk everything to save those who have been forgotten or abandoned. Jack thought about his own choice 6 months ago, when he refused to let Silver die despite the orders of his superiors. It hadn't felt heroic at the time, just necessary. But perhaps that was what true heroism was, doing the right thing even when it was difficult or dangerous. Dr. Cole spoke from her position at the medical council table. The Arachnid Federation would support this joint guardianship. We have seen how human compassion and Star Drake wisdom complement each other. One by one, other delegates voiced their support. The former slave worlds were eager to support any system that would prevent their return to bondage. The peaceful species welcomed protection from aggressors. Even some of the more warlike cultures admitted that the old system had brought them nothing but endless conflict and suffering. As the votes were counted, Jack felt a strange mixture of pride and responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity was being invited to help guide the destiny of an entire galaxy, and it had started with one human refusing to let a dying creature suffer alone. The final vote was overwhelming. The new Galactic Council would be governed by joint human-Star Drake guardianship, with representatives from all member species participating in decisions that affected their worlds. Elder Starweaver rose one final time as the session concluded. Let this day mark the beginning of a new age, an age where the strong protect the weak, where different species work together as equals, and where no being is ever again abandoned to die alone and forgotten. As delegates began filing out of the chamber to celebrate the historic agreement, Jack remained in his seat, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had just happened. Silver landed beside him, folding his silver wings and nuzzling against Jack's shoulder. Are you ready for this? Silver asked through their private mental link. Jack looked around the chamber, seeing beings from across the galaxy talking and laughing together instead of plotting against each other. He thought about all the worlds they would need to help heal, all the species they would need to protect, and all the challenges that lay ahead. I don't know if anyone could be ready for something this big, Jack admitted, but I know we have to try. Silver's mental voice carried warmth and determination. We will not be doing it alone. We will have each other, and we will have all the good beings in the galaxy who want to build something better. Jack reached out and touched Silver's gleaming scales, remembering the small, dying creature covered in barnacles that it found in a waste disposal bay. That act of simple compassion had changed both their lives and the fate of an entire galaxy. Then let's get to work, Jack said, and together they walked toward their new destiny as guardians of stars.